This is Kim with Mom's Creative Moments. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do a project recipe from the project recipe birthday binder, and this is number 5 because it's week number 5. So I hope this is enjoyable for you. This is still working on Ireland. We're going to be doing that for a very long time, I think. Let's take a look at my workspace and we'll get started. All right, here's my workspace for today, and you'll recognize this page as the second page from the last layout that we did, the one about the wishing steps and the I think it was called a Doran? The dolmen. I'm sorry, I was remembering that wrong. The wishing steps and the dolmen. And today we are going to, rather than doing a virtual crop sketch, which is what this was, we are going to proceed and do a project recipe from the 52 project recipe scrapbooking book that we got at the CM birthday last year. So I hope this will be fun for you. This is number 5. We are in week 5 of this year, so I thought it would be appropriate to use the one for this week. We're also going to use the border maker system again. We've been using that a lot lately, I know, but I like its versatility, and in this particular case it works really well because we're going to be layering some borders. You can see here that this border itself is made up of 3 different punched borders, and this one up here is 2 of them. So we're going to be doing a fair amount of punching today. I have selected 3 papers to use to do that. So let me just go through some of the papers that I have here. This one on top with the shamrocks you'll recognize from the National Scrapbook Day 2021 paper pack. This one right here with the speckly nest to it is from the Lime Tart collection from Vivid Melodies from a few years back. And this one right here is simply a piece of cardstock that matched the blues in this. We may end up using the back side of this. I haven't decided yet. I don't know, but we also may end up using the back side of this. I think as we punch, the actual project recipe tells us to use the reverse side, so you may see these 2 sides in this layout as well. We'll see which one we like best as we go. So I have my multi-purpose tool handy as usual, and I have the new CM Jumbo adhesive that we're going to use again today, and I will just remind you that this does click when I use it. That's just the way that it's been made, and if it bothers you, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to just go back to the smaller one like I have right here with the repositionable adhesive when I'm on camera. That's not a problem. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm also going to use a 6 by 12 peekaboo pocket in today's layout, so I may need some more paper at some point, so we'll cross that bridge when we get there. In fact, I'm probably going to need some more paper at some point, so just know that there may be a pause at some point where I have to get that. Alright, so we have our 3 papers right here, and we need 3 tone-on-tone papers, and I've chosen to use to have one of them be just cardstock, which is fine. You can do that. And I have labeled them so that I don't forget, because in choosing them, what I do is I take a look at all the different pieces and where the pieces are going to go in the design, and then decide which one I would rather have where. Okay, so our shamrock piece is going to be our tone-on-tone paper number 1. The speckly piece is going to be tone-on-tone paper number 2, represented by the blue. And then my blue cardstock down here is going to be Tone on Tone paper 3, represented by the peach. So 1 and 3 need to be punched, so I'm going to start with number 2, and we're just going to cut that one and get it going. Let me grab my trimmer real quick. Set this over here, and we will get our Tone on Tone paper number 2 whipped into shape here. Alright, so it says we need a 2 by 12 inch piece, and neither of these sides is directional necessarily, although this one is a little bit. So let's see where that piece is going to be. It's piece number K, and that's the piece that goes underneath here. So I think I want these chevron-ish, this chevron-ish pattern to be horizontal. So that means I'm going to want to cut down this way to make my 2 inches. So we're going to line it up using the top shoulder at the 2-inch mark on my grid, and we're going to cut that at 2 inches and set that aside. Then we're going to cut the next one at 2.5. So I'm going to scooch this over to 2.5. Make sure it's lining up on my grid and cut that at 2.5. I'm going to slide that out here. Then I'm going to turn it horizontally, and we're going to cut 2 2.5-inch squares. So we're going to cut 1 square and 2 squares. And both of these are going to get cut on the diagonal. So I'm going to go ahead and stack those up and put them corner to corner on my cutting line. So that oops, they just moved, so bear with me a second. Alright, hold still, you. So there's my 2 sets of triangles from this one. I'm just going to set them there just to keep them out of the way. Now the remaining piece of that should be 7 inches. And it is, so that's great. That's our other piece. Going to set that over here. Alright, so then we also need a 1 by 12 piece. So I'm going to just cut that off of this side using my lower shoulder to keep it straight. There's my 1 by 12. And then the remainder should be 6.5. Let's double check. Yep, 6.5 exactly. And we need 2 6.5 by 4.5 pieces from that. So we're going to measure this with the paper horizontal to 4.5 inches. And then another one to 4.5 inches. All right. And then this piece is just extra, so we'll just set that aside. Those are mats, so I'm going to set them up there, and I'll get back to them in just a minute. All right, so then we are going to need to punch a few things, but we can still go ahead and cut, because this one, paper number 3, is we need 3 mats from this, and we'll have plenty to still punch those 3 borders. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 6 inches. And then we're going to cut 3 6 by 4 inch mats from this. Not sure what's going on. I think I gouged my mat somehow. So sometimes it decides it doesn't want to cut. anyway. All right, so we'll punch those borders in just a minute. Let's go ahead and jump over here to paper number 1, and we'll go ahead and cut these pieces as well. Now we don't need to worry about a directional pattern on either side, so not a problem there. We're going to cut these at, we're going to cut a piece at 4 by 6. So 4, and then we're going to cut this in half at 6 inches. And I'm using my magic little tab that I added to indicate 6 inches. If you don't have that, then just pull your arm out so you can measure 6 inches. Not a problem. Okay. Then we are going to do this, something similar to what we did with our blue paper. We're going to go ahead and cut. I'm just cutting in the reverse order. Typically we start on the left and work our way to the right, but because these two require punched borders, I started on the left and worked my way to the right. Started on the right, worked my way to the left. Anyway, so we've got these two mats. Now we're going to cut this 2.5 inch piece. And then we need two 2.5 inch squares. I think this is one of my favorite pieces of paper in this whole collection. The whole, all of the papers that I've used in my Ireland scrapbook, I think this one is probably my favorite of all of them. But anyway, so this one is 7 inches, so it's this long piece right here. Then we're going to take these two squares, stack them up, and we're going to cut them into triangles. So opposite corners on your cutting line. Go real slow to make sure your paper doesn't shift. And there are our triangles from this one. All right, now we need an additional 2.5 by 12, but I'm going to wait and cut that after we have punched our borders. So I'm just going to set this trimmer off to the side, and I'm going to grab the border maker. Now, the borders for this layout need to be chain borders, and I think we had that discussion in the last video. There are 3 different kinds. 3? That's 6. There are 3 different kinds of borders cartridges that you can use, or that Creative Memories makes. There's the chain border maker cartridge, similar to this one. This is the square, the square link chain. And this one, the definition of a chain border maker cartridge is that it completely separates from your paper when you punch it. No trimming needed, it just separates out. Then you have what we call an edge border maker, and that one looks something like, this is a blast from the past. Here's the crown. So this one just adds a dynamic edge to your paper without separating it from the larger piece. You'll need to trim this off or just use that as the edge of your paper, depending on what you want. And so it'll either be a chain border maker cartridge or a edge border maker cartridge, or it'll be something that we call a knockout border maker cartridge. And that is something like this. This is I would call this a knockout border maker cartridge. This one is called the Heart Duet, and you can see that it punches out several or 2 different sized hearts, as well as giving you a very cute little border that is attached to your page. So it's a little bit more like a dual purpose punch. So I just wanted to clarify that. Today we're using the chain punch again, which is similar to last time. And I pulled 3 of them that I thought might work with this particular layout. 2 of them are still currently in the line. This one, the square link chain, is still currently in the line, and so is this one, which is the thirst quencher. And I thought that would be cute. And then this one is no longer available. It's called Dotted Diamonds. So if you have this one also I think would be really cute in this particular layout. Because the photos that we're using today refer to a kitchen, you won't see any utensils or anything like that. I wonder who's at the door. My kids are upstairs. They'll take care of it. But because it does refer to a kitchen, I think we're gonna just go ahead and go with this one because it's a super fun one with those cute little glasses of fun stuff, and it reminds me of like potions and things like that, which is what we're talking about today with the witch's kitchen. So I just thought it might be a cute one to use. So I'm going to go ahead and punch this twice using the shamrock paper because it's paper number 1, and then we're going to punch it 3 times using paper number 3, the cardstock over here, and then we'll get going with the next portion of this. So one thing I'd like to mention before I complete this last one is the Border Maker system really is designed to work fantastically with the designer papers, designer weight papers specifically. So when you add a cardstock in here, cardstock is going to be a heavier weight paper. It's going to be a little more difficult for your punches to get through a heavier weight paper. So you are going to have to push harder, and you might get some strange noises, and I'm going to punch this so you can hear it here for a second. These last 2 punches, because this is cardstock, it is thicker than the designer paper weight paper, and so it does make, I have to push harder, and you can hear that it kind of makes a little bit of a different sound when it punches through. It's okay to do that. Just know that if you're trying to punch something like glitter paper or something like that, you might get something stuck, and occasionally that happens. So it's not unheard of because this is not designed for that weight of paper. So just know that you run that risk if you're using something like cardstock of a heavier weight, or glitter paper or something like that. Anything heavier than designer paper has that risk of possibly getting stuck. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I've got all of my borders punched, which is great. This piece is extra. I'm going to set it over here on my extras pile, but we do need to trim this one up, remember, because it is supposed to be 2.5 inches, and that is looking bigger than 2.5 inches to me. So let's just measure it. Yep, that is bigger. So we're going to trim off a little bit here so that this is 2.5 inches, and then this little piece will be extra, and we'll just set it over here. Alright, so those are all of our pieces. Let's get started assembling. Alright, so I'm going to grab, this is the back side of the layout we finished last time. Set those on top. Grab these triangles. We're going to need those. I'm going to flip this back over to our layout. Okay, so we basically have a really wide border down here at the bottom and a tinier border at the top, shorter border at the top over here. And then we have some accent papers over here next to this mat. Okay, so that's kind of the structure of this layout. We have mats under these photos as well, but I'm doing this part a little bit different, so I may need to cut another one when we get that far. We'll figure that out. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take our, I'm going to open this up so that I can refer to the pieces and know exactly what we need for each different area. Okay, this book is a little bit heavy, so let's go like that. All right, so we need 2 of the blue punched pieces and 1 of the shamrock punched pieces for the layout on the left. Those are going to go there. We need piece C, which is the piece that I just cut. That piece is going to be over here on this side. We need piece K, which is the 2 by 12 that was cut from here. That's that piece right there. And we need piece, let's see, and then the 3 border pieces. So those make up that strip that goes across the top, and then we also use all of these triangles with that border there. And then the border that goes across the top up here is going to have this long piece and these 2 borders. And that will be on the right side of the page. And then these 2 pieces also go on the right hand side. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start with the triangles, and you can see they go off the edge here. So let's just identify which direction we want them to go in first. And we're going to, you'll notice on the cutting guide that this says these 2 are reversed and these 2 are reversed. So 2 of each of the 4 need to be flipped over. So we've got 2 that will be on this side. We've got 2 that will be on this side. We've got 2 that will be on this side. Remember how I said we were going to end up seeing that pattern? And 2 that will be on this side. Okay, so there are 8. And you can choose which one you want in the center, or you can just start from one side and go ahead and move across. Starting from the center means you're going to be tucking as you go, so it might be easiest, I think, to go ahead and start on one of the ends. But let's figure out maybe what order we want these in. I think I want something a little more solid in between the dots and let's see here. Just trying to establish a pattern here. But I also really like the shamrocks, and I don't want to lose all of those. So, not that we're going to lose anything here, but let's do like this. Let's do them in this order instead. That one, and then this one. Okay, so that's the order we're going to proceed in, but I'm going to go ahead and move this up so that I can get them adhered. So I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive because it works so well on the points of a triangle. Whoops, I need to slide the guide back. So we're just going to go like that. we're going to start by trying to make this as straight and level as possible. So the best way I know to make that happen is to grab my zero centering ruler, because it's nice and flat on the edge and it's exactly the size of my page. I can set that in there at just the right height. There we go. And then I can go ahead and start adhering these and make sure they're straight by putting the flat edge up here right against my ruler and the tip right on the edge of my page. Then I know that that is going to be straight. And I just put it down crooked. Alright, there we go. That's better. Okay, so then we'll pick up this one, and I'm going to scoot these out because I don't want to have to keep moving my ruler every time I proceed. I want that just to stay there. Okay, so we're just going to get these put down, and we're going to put an even amount of space in between each one. So I'm going to put the tip of this, I'm thinking if I put it every, like at the tip of this at an inch in, I think that will work. Well, let's try it, and if necessary we can move it because we're using our repositionable adhesive. So it'll be okay any way you slice it. Can you hear Maggie? She's chomping on something back here. What are you chomping on, Mags? Oh, toothbrush. She snagged Emily's toothbrush over the weekend. She found it. I don't know how she found it, but she did. And she's been just enjoying it. Fortunately, Emily had another one. Fortunately. I'm thinking we might need to move this out a little bit farther. 1 inch may not be enough. And I'm kind of, it looks like it's a great amount right here, but maybe that's just because I need to trim that off. I don't know. I don't know how I did that. All right. Okay. Yeah, we're going to need a little more space. Look at that. That's going to be too far short. All right, so we're going to stick that there. We're going to try this again. And I think we're going to give it 1.25 inches in between. Thank goodness for repositionable adhesive. Right, ladies? All right. So we're going to get this one off, and we're going to move it over. So we're going to go 1.25 inches. Let's see if that will work. So then we go 1.25 inches. This one's a little bit more taxing for the brain because you really have to measure from this point. So 1.25 inches would be there. So sorry for the extra stress. If any of you are stressed, don't be stressed. I'm here to make the mistakes for you. This is looking much better. I think this is going to work much better. All right. So I like that much better. I'm thinking I probably should have scooted this in just a little bit more. And we probably could do that. Let's see if I can lift this up and just center it a little bit better so that I don't have as much that I have to remove and it's just centered more. Very good. All right. Perfect. Okay. Now we're going to assemble the border that's going to go on top of those triangles. All right. So let me put that away. We're going to move that out of the way for just a second and we're going to take a look at this. So I could flip this over. We could do a dark green with a light green, and then we'll have the blue on the bottom and the blue on the top. And then this one with shamrocks going down the middle. We could do that. That's option number one. All right. Maybe it doesn't look as nice on camera as it does here. Or we could flip this over and do the darker version. And of course it's going the other direction, but I can flip my cardstock as well and that won't be a problem. And then so that we have a variation, we'll flip this on the back. Of course you won't see very much of it. I kind of actually like that better. I don't know. Or we could do that and then we could just flip this one going going like this. I think it's harder to see. I think it's harder to see. I don't know why. What if we, I don't know if it would help to put that one behind it. I think it would just make it worse to put this back there. I don't know, oddly enough, I think it helps pull this out. How very strange. I don't like it though. I don't like it. Okay, so we're going to do the tone-on-tone green on the back. So let's try this one more time. Let's see. Let's see with it up against this, what I like better. Sorry to keep flipping everything. No, I think it's easier. I think it looks better this way. Okay, so we'll flip over the blue cardstock to create that border. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this put together real quick. So first we're going to adhere the green to the shamrock piece. This just goes straight down the middle, so you just center it and make sure it stays centered as you go down the border piece. There you go, like so. Then we're going to take each one of these, and I'm going to flip this so that it's going to adhere this way. Using my repositionable adhesive so I can just run it right across all those open spots and not stress. Love it. What did we do before repositionable adhesive? We used precision point adhesive for all of these things, and man, it just felt like it got messy. Okay. One more. Now, if you wanted to add some dimension to this, you could pop up this center section on foam squares, lift it up off the page. I think that would be highly appropriate and look really cool, but I'm not going to take the time to do that just now. So just an idea that popped into my head and thought I would suggest to you. Foam squares can be just a neat addition to your layout. I know a lot of people are concerned about them, but because if you add too many of them, they can make your pages really thick, and you might not like that, but they're not too bad, I don't think. Especially if you get the thin ones that were just in the adhesive buffet we just had. Okay, I'm going to use my zero centering ruler. I'm going to put it right up against the jeeping here, and I've opened up my precision point scissors. I'm just going to run it right along the paper, run the point right along the paper there, so that I can lift up this end piece and get rid of it, and it's trimmed off nicely. You can also just use your scissors and cut it, but sometimes it's nice to just try something different. And I just like the way that this cuts super close. All right. So those are made tidy. All done with that. Awesome. Let's do the border that's going to go on the right hand side. Okay, so I'm going to grab this piece. Those are going to go over there. I almost forgot we still need to do the peekaboo pocket. So that is a portion of this that I am going to need to cut some more materials for, I think. Alright, so we're going to use this page, but we're going to, let's build this first really quick. Now this border is a little bit different than the other one in that we're going to use the cardstock to be a shadow underneath the border. And I think I'm going to turn it around intentionally so that my pictures are facing the other way from the last time, because that's just fun to give it some variety, right? Okay, so I'm going to add some adhesive across the designer paper that I punched, and then we're just going to add a shadow. Well, that means we're going to offset this by just enough that we can see that blue paper underneath. And think of it as when you were in elementary school and you made bubble letters to maybe graffiti the cover that was covering your textbook. Who did that? Did you do that? I did it all the time. I made bubble letters that said math or algebra or whatever it was, English, and gave it a shadow. So that's what we're doing. We're giving it a shadow. And if you are not a person who did that, then I'm shocked, because it just seemed like everybody did that. Maybe I hung out with an artsy crowd. Who knew? All right, so this border is going to go right along the top edge of your page. So you're going to want to connect your connect this punched border with the lower edge of that 1-inch piece. And I am just putting it high enough that most of the punched out areas inside my pictures and stuff are still on the 1-inch border piece. Okay, then we're going to add some adhesive to the back of this, and this is going to go all the way across the top edge of this border. Now I think the project recipe in here says that you should choose some base papers to do this on, so then you would have more of a pattern underneath this for this right hand page, but I'm using the naked page, conserving my paper just a little bit. And so I like to use the naked page sometimes. I think it's nice. And anyway, you can do what you like. If you would rather have a base page, use a base page for both sides. I would use it for both sides. Okay, so the photos that are going to go over here are these right here. And I'm essentially turning, which is something that I forgot when I adhered that up there. I think I was going to turn this slightly, but it doesn't really work using this border, so we're not going to turn it. We're going to just roll with what we're doing here. I'm going to what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? So this one with my two kiddos in it is going to go over here and be a part of this interesting little accent. And it gets, I need to trim it down because it gets a matte, it gets this blue matte right here, so that we're carrying that blue over. So I need to trim this a little. Let me grab my guillotine trimmer. We're going to trim this just a little bit, and I'm going to, so trimming a photo is kind of an interesting science, And I'll just mention this just really quick. When I have a picture like this that I need to trim down, I find it's easiest to find the side of the photo that has the least bit of interest. So I'm going to trim the top, and I'm going to trim probably this side. But an argument could be made to trim a little from both sides. But I like these rocks, so I'm going to leave those there. So the photo right now is the same size as the mat, so I need to take at least 1/4 of an inch off. I could take a little bit more. I think I'm going to go with a 3/8 inch mat on this, and so I'm going to go ahead and just cut that so that I am at 3 5/8 wide. And then that means that I need to make this one the same. So this one's going to be 5 5/8 long, so that my borders are my mat that goes around will be a similar size. Okay, so just like that. And because these are also going to be matted, but they're using smaller mats. So these two photos need to be trimmed as well, so that they work with these 4 by 6 mats. So let's go ahead and trim a little bit of this one as well. So we're going to make these all the same so that the mats are similar. A lot of times, if I want it to be a little bit wider than 1/8 of an inch all the way around, but I don't really want a full 1/4 of an inch, I'll just do 3/8 like I'm doing here. And I feel like it adds just a little bit more of a width, enough to make me happy. And always make sure you're measuring your photos and you're not just assuming that you're cutting off a certain amount, because as we've talked about before, photos get printed in different sizes without you necessarily realizing it. A 4 by 6 photo can sometimes be 4 by 5 7/8. And then if you're taking another 1/4 inch off of it, then the mat's going to be the wrong size all the way around the photo. And by trimming them down just a little bit, you enable yourself to make the photo even and the mat even, so long as you take that into account. I think it's called a professional variant or something like that, but as a memory keeper, scrapbooker, photo genealogist of sorts, it's kind of irritating. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so we've got this one, and we've got this one, we've got this one. Oh, we gotta get that one stuck on. Many is the time that I have just said, oh, I need a 1/4 inch mat, so I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch off a picture, and then I wondered why my pictures, my mats looked so gigantic. Well, it's because the print was not printed accurately to size. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, ladies. Okay, so just layering that, giving it a healthy 1/2 of an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch border. Just make sure that the top is close to the same as the bottom. We're going to put this down about 3/8 of an inch from the jeeping over here, Just trying to make it straight. You can see it keeps moving on me. Okay, that'll work. All right, so those were our the two larger pieces that were extra. Then we're going to add this one here. And I'm building it this way because where these two go is going to depend a lot on where this one sits. So making this one a little bit narrower than this, I think is going to be the best course. All right. And then what we might do is go ahead and tuck this photo under so that those can be closer together. I don't think I'm going to like that very well. This is too close because of the size photos I'm using. It needs to be more in the middle of the page. So we're going to lift this whole thing up and scoot it. This is sometimes happens when you're using photo sizes that are different than a project recipe calls for. Sometimes you have to be flexible. All right, so we're going to put that there. Let's get some adhesive on the back of this one. And I've got a little stray paper hair. So I'm going to put this roughly a healthy 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. So I'm giving this an 1/8 of an inch between here as well. It's a little bit more than an 1/8 of an inch into my photo that's sinking, but that's okay. And then this one can sit like so. Okay, so there's that. We still have the peekaboo pocket to get to, so don't let me forget it. I'm just going to leave it here so I'm not ignoring it completely, right? All right, so you can see here they've got two 4x6 photos that sit vertically at the top, on the top of this border. I have 3 photos we're going to put here, and we're going to have to get another mat. So, knowing that, we're going to, I'm going to need some more paper, because this photo is the one that, for me, that has the most emphasis because it's of my cute daughter. So I want to have a special mat around this photo that's going to match. All right, but this one, and we have these mats up here that we still need to use. Okay, so I have 2 blue ones, I have 2 green ones. What did I not mat that I was supposed to mat? What am I missing? There's only 5 photos, but we had 6 mats, so maybe that's the difference. But it told us to cut 6 mats. Hold on, I have to just check this out for a second. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It told us to cut 7 mats. 7 4x6 or 4.5 by 6.5 pieces. So what are we doing? Oh, this is double matted right here. That's the difference. Okay. But you know what? I don't want to double mat them because I want this one to have emphasis. So if I was going to double mat something, it would be this one. Okay. We have some trimming to do. And we could use the mats that we don't use over here on this. So I'm not, the paper's not going to get wasted. I'm not worried about that. What I might need to do though, we want to use this, or do we want to use this? I haven't used this as much as I thought I was going to. Initially when I chose this paper, it was because of this side, not because of the other side. Isn't that so funny? Okay. And then these, we could cut these down so that I think we're going to need to cut them down because they aren't going to fit otherwise. They actually might not fit this way either. How is that possible? Maybe I should have lowered that a little. Lowered this part a little bit further down. But I don't think I want to do that. Okay, let's figure this out. What size do these two photos need to be so that I can fit them both right here? I need to take about 3/4 of an inch off of that. That's going to make it 3 by 5.5. Okay, I think we can do that. So let's make sure before we start trimming our pictures. Okay, so this is going to be 3 1/4. So I'm going to take 3 1/4 off of that and 3 1/4 off of this. And then my photo will be 3 inches. Allowing me 1/8 of an inch around. But we're going to make it 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. So the mat is 5 1/4 by 3 1/4. And the picture will be 3 by 5. So then this one, I didn't read this for you yet, so we're going to need to do that shortly. 5. The Witch's Kitchen. Kind of a curious thing. Not kind of, definitely a curious thing. This needs to be 3. So this says, historians will tell you that this was home to the very first Irish cave dwellers. But if you arrive early enough in the morning, you may still see the dying embers of a fire. Legend tells us that the Blarney Witch lights the fire every night as she fights to stop shivering after her nocturnal escape from the cursed witch's stone. One thing we learned from our visit to Ireland was it is steeped in folklore. Not that we didn't, realized that before, but there's something about being there and listening to the stories and hearing the legends firsthand that's just really cool. All right, so I'm going to center. This part of the photo is the center focus. So a 5-inch photo, the center is 2.5. So I'm putting the 2.5 mark on my trimmer right in the middle of that focused area. And then that way, no matter what I trim off the edges, it'll stay in the center of my picture, no matter how I took the picture. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right, so those are good to go. I need an extra mat for that one. Okay, so let's see if I have any more of that, of this paper that I can use. And if I don't, then I can use those two pieces and we'll just add them together. We cut them apart, we can add them together. No one will care. Oh, I have another piece. Yay, I have another piece. Okay. So I'm going to make my own mat for that picture. Now the question is, do we need to cut the picture down at all? I think I might actually trim it just a little bit so that these are 3 1/4 and 3 1/4. That's 6 1/2 plus maybe a 1/2 inch in between. So that makes 7 total. So if this is 7, so we'll make it 5 by 7. Love it when it comes together. All right, 7. That's going to sit over there. Then I need to trim this photo. So let me grab this. Look at that. Aren't you proud of me? I'm grabbing the right trimmer. Okay. So this one needs to be 5 1/2 by 6 1/2. So we're going to measure that to 6 1/2. And we're going to take a little off at this side. 4 sorry, I said that wrong. 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. So that then that will sit right in there and be beautiful. All right. We're going to put her centered from top to the top of the border and give it about 3/4 of an inch from the center of the layout. The cool thing, I think I've said this before, but a cool thing about taking a photo like this of the sign that describes the area, is that can become your title for your page. So then you don't have to add a title to the page because it's already there in your photograph, which is kind of a nice option, I think. Now we could just stack these, or we could offset them just a little bit. And given that we have a little bit of offset going on the page next to us, or next to this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to offset these rather than stacking them, because I think it will look nicer along with the page next to it. So I'm not going to go all the way to the side edge. I'm going to go, let's see, we should make this border the same as the one on the other side. So we'll go about 3/4 of an inch in, which is not going to give a lot of offset, but it will give some, which is going to be nice to balance everything. Okay, so there we go. So there's our 2 pages. Now some embellishing could be done. Journaling could be done down here. It's a nice spot to put that journaling in. I have the peekaboo pocket, which I'm going to add, and you'll have to see on the flip through because I think this video has already gone long enough. But just a couple of extra pictures that will go in here of this beautiful yew tree. I think that's a yew tree that was at the top and kind of guarded this whole area. This was the way into the kitchen. This is looking from the inside back this way towards the outer area. Here's that beautiful yew tree. You can see, just super cool looking. And then the pictures on the back are of Haley and my cousin Kelly. So those will get put into a nice peekaboo pocket that will be in between. It'll be right here in the middle of this layout. So that I will build it so that it accents both sides. You'll have to watch the flip through video of volume 2 to see what that looks like. Thanks so much for joining me today for this layout project recipe number 5 from the birthday project recipe 52 project recipe book from last year. I hope this has been a fun layout for you. I hope it's been helpful to watch me make mistakes so you don't have to. Let me know what you think in the comments. I always want to know what you're thinking and what you may have done differently, or if you like what I did. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, I hope you have many more creative moments. Enjoy your day.